game on the line. Williams lofting one for a deuce. He caught
it! You're listening to the world's #1 football podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Ben Hanson, Matt Hartman, and Ryan Matthews.
Just Ben Hanson here today. Matt, as you guys are kind of used to seeing floating around here, especially on the College Corner and whatnot, is out sick today, vertigo, cold, all of that jazz. So you guys won't see him on anything this week. Maybe we'll get a chance to see him come Monday on the videos if he can recover and whatnot. But as you guys can see, I'm riding solo. It is just me today. So it'll probably be a little bit of a quicker episode than usual, especially considering College Corner and whatnot. But again, there was a whole lot of shakeup that has happened across college football over this past week, and a whole lot that has stayed the same. That being said, we'll kind of jump right into our rankings that we're used to here. And we're going to start out here looking at the top 25. As you can see, our top 5 has stayed the exact same, probably as it should, and a lot more of that shakeup is now coming from the middle order here of our rankings. Texas Tech with a big victory over BYU, which we'll get into in a little bit, which kind of bumps them up to a top 6 team in the country. And I think it's probably right around where they should be considering the ball that they've been playing, especially on the defensive side of the football there. And as a result, BYU was actually ranked 7 going into last weekend. And now they drop all the way down to 12 there, dropping 5 spots. Oregon bumps up a couple spots after getting a win against Iowa, as they should. That was kind of I want to say a snooze fest, but it was a very fun game to watch, but it was definitely a barn burner. Again, another one of those games that we will get into here in a second. But this is kind of what our top 25 looks like as of right now. Really the big thing that I think is worth mentioning, and I teased it a little bit in the video we put out on Monday, is the possibility of an ACC team not making it in the playoffs. To refresh your guys' memory on that, the reason I say that is it's 5 conference teams get those auto bids in. They never specified what those conferences are. A lot of that over the past couple, especially last year, has been your Power 4 teams and then a group of 5 teams. And I'm not going to say it's going to happen, and I definitely wouldn't put any money on it. And I know if Matt were here today, he would definitely push back on the thought of that. But there's a very real possibility that we see the champion of the Big Ten, obviously, the SEC and the Big 12 all make it in. And then this is where you would typically see that ACC team. So at this point, it would be Miami, but we'll see if it's Miami. But there's a very real possibility that it's your team from the American that wins. So right now, the USF or Memphis coming out of American, and then it could be that other team coming out of the Sun Belt, which is JMU, who is 1 loss. And again, I think where Matt would kind of push back going into this would be, well, it could be JMU, obviously, as that 5th, conference winner there, but who is JMU's 1 loss to? Well, it's to ACC Louisville, which makes that discussion a little bit more difficult, considering, well, maybe it'll be a group of 5 ACC team. We'll see. Only time will tell. But again, on top of that, it's a very real possibility that it's Duke above any of these ACC teams that you guys see ranked here, like Miami and Louisville and Virginia and whatnot, because Duke has 1 loss in the ACC this year, which means they're still very much in play to be that title contender, at least as the ACC comes. Matt had mentioned it last week that Duke is the favorite right now, or the betting favorite to win the ACC still, and that's a very real possibility. And if we see an unranked Duke win the ACC conference, do you then justify that conference winner to get in over a one-loss JMU or a one, maybe two possible loss USF or Miami or something like that? We'll see. Only time will tell. Again, there's still a lot more football to be played until these final rankings come out. Obviously, the conference games being the biggest ones here. But again, we'll see. There's still a lot of shakeup to be happening here in college football. And then we'll jump into kind of what you guys are used to. Again, it'll be a much quicker episode, probably 15 or 20 minutes going live here today. We'll cover the games that we had seen, or at least the big games that we had seen this past Saturday, and then dig a little bit more into the games that we're going to see here this coming Saturday in terms of college football here. And where else would I start besides my Hoosiers? And yes, I'm saying that with the Michigan flag hanging in the background. But my Hoosiers really tight roping centimeter winning against Penn State here. They end up winning 24-27. A lot of people are kind of crowning that touchdown pass that Mendoza had in the back of the end zone to Omar Cooper as his Heisman moment. And a lot of people are saying, well, this is when we'll look back on the college season and say that is when Mendoza won it. I don't think it's locked up. I would love for it to be locked up. Again, as a Hoosier fan and alumni, it would be fantastic to say, well, Mendoza has it, but there's still a lot of football, and it very truly might come down to the Big Ten Conference game, considering, Julian Sayin and Mendoza there. But what the kid showed with 2 minutes left, being able to march down the field with no timeouts left and put his team in front against a Penn State team was huge. It shows kind of the grit and the never say die mentality and getting it done in crunch time that you kind of need to see that gets checked off of a team that is going to make a push, hopefully deep into the playoffs. Yes, it was against a 3-win Penn State team, but I think it's kind of a reminder too, like how important the atmosphere is. State College was rocking. It was their first home game since James Franklin has been fired. And man, did those fans, did they come out and support their team regardless of them having 3 wins or not. But moving on, we'll move on to probably what was the biggest matchup of the weekend in Texas Tech versus BYU. A game that I think me and Matt were both pretty in favor of Texas Tech winning, and Texas Tech kind of just took over the game. It wasn't really a ball game for the majority of it. Texas Tech ends up winning 29-7, but really I think the big highlight here is Jacob Rodriguez. Matt had mentioned it last week that, like, hey, maybe we should have this kid in the Heisman conversation because of what he's done on the defensive side of the football. And he clearly, at least in terms of college football, has been the best defensive player. And again, he went out and showed it last weekend. He had 14 tackles, an interception, and then also a fumble recovery, really kind of putting his stamp on that game and kind of proving what we've been saying for a while now about Texas Tech being this big time like program, and a program that you have to watch out for, despite the fact that they play in the Big 12. Moving on to a Big 10 game, we have 9th ranked Oregon beating 20th ranked Iowa, and we saw Oregon benefited from that, moving up in the rankings, and Iowa really not taking too much of a dip as far as the rankings, moving from 20 to 21. And it was a barn burner of a game, but really in the best way possible. It was some of the best football I've seen in terms of trenches and the defensive side of the football. And Iowa goes and takes the lead late in the game, but they left time on for Dante Moore. And you really went into that kind of having a 50-50 chance. Which Dante Moore were we going to get? Were we going to get the Penn State Dante Moore that rallied and kind of was a little bit of the catalyst that caused this collapse in Penn State? Or were we going to get the IU Dante Moore where he kind of shrinks down when the moment, shines the brightest? But Dante Moore kind of said, hey, don't forget me. I still am one of the better quarterbacks. And he was able to push the ball down the field. One in particular, with a beautiful throw down the right sideline, a throw that really doesn't get much better than that. Which led to them being able to score the touchdown, putting them 2 points in front of Iowa, and winning the game. Oregon did go for 2, but here we are, and Oregon continues to chip away and still make a case to be in the college football playoffs. Moving on over to the ACC, Louisville, one of the teams that we thought hey, maybe this is one of the teams that comes out of the ACC that I mentioned early on at the top of this episode, ended up actually losing and getting upset by Cal. That game went into overtime. Cal ended up winning on a field goal, 29-26. And we'll look into Louisville a little bit more. But again, them beating up on each other a little bit just furthers that case that I had mentioned at the top of the show. And then finally, another ACC team here, Duke gets upset by UConn. Again, it just goes back to that prior statement. The ACC is a little bit of cannibalizing itself, where one of these teams isn't really sticking out at the top, especially the one team that we would have hoped going into the season in Miami. But that's a different point for a different day. But Duke loses to UConn. But really the big takeaway from this game is that UConn has a legit home field advantage and might be one of the tougher places to play. And it's really weird because as of a couple years ago, people forgot that they even played football because they're not a football school. Obviously, far more known for what they bring on the basketball side of everything. But we still have to see if there's one of those teams that stands out above the rest to make a possible case to be one of the top 11 teams in the country, considering the group of 5 team at least gets an auto bid there. So we'll see if a team continues to stick out. And we will kind of move on to the last segment of the episode here. Again, it's moving along really, really quickly, especially when I don't have someone holding me back and someone telling me I'm stupid for saying that the ACC might not have another team making it in. And we'll take ahead and we'll take a look at some of the games that we're going to see this week. The 2 mainly being some big SEC clashes ahead. And it's really tough. I'm trying to figure out which one I think should go first here. We'll start with Matt's team. We'll go 10th ranked Texas going into Georgia's a 6.5 point favorite in this game. And I don't want to say, I want to make an overarching, grandiose, declarative statement here. But this is a really kind of put up or shut up moment in terms of Texas. If Texas wins this game, then they could say, well, look at me. We actually deserve to get into this. But I think this might be Texas's last chance to prove themselves as a playoff team. And we have seen a lot of positive stuff going forward from Arch Manning over the last 2, 3, 4 games. Texas being a big winner of this week, considering that they were on bye. But over those last 2 weeks, again, Arch Manning has kind of settled into the offense, has been able to gather his bearings. And he has a little bit of a test, obviously, against 5th ranked Georgia. That being said, we've said it all season long. This Georgia defense isn't quite what we have, come accustomed to thinking when we think of Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs and all of that, but it's still not like a bad defense. So we'll just see if this offensive line can hold up against this not so fantastic Georgia defensive line. And I really think that's going to be the key to this game. If this can be Georgia's chance to get after the quarterback, something they really haven't been able to do thus far this year, and kind of take advantage of this offensive line that has been mixed around and shuffled a little bit with Texas, or if Texas can kind of hold firm and give Arch some time in the pocket to make plays. because I do think, and I'm going to knock on wood here, I think Texas has the better defense, and I think they have a chance to hold Gunnar Stockton accountable, I'll say, in kind of keep that craziness that he brings to the table in check. Because again, you never know what you're getting with Gunnar Stockton, but this could be a game where this Texas defense kind of takes over and says, well, Arch, we are doing everything we possibly can to put yourself in a good situation. Now, please go and capitalize it. And like I said, I think if Texas loses this game, I think we can all but say their playoff chances are over, but only time will tell. We've seen crazier things happen here. Swinging it on over to the other SEC game that I was mentioning, and that is 11th ranked OU versus Alabama, with that same spread that we had seen in this previous game. Alabama's favored 6.5 at Alabama, just as it was at Georgia. We had mentioned like OU really hasn't gotten anything going up against like these true Power 4 contenders until Tennessee. And then they were able to play Tennessee. They were able to settle in a little bit. And I think this is another one of their chances here, and another one of those, if we lose this game, we're going to be out of the college football playoffs. And I think this might be a good chance for this Oklahoma defense to pounce on Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson didn't have an awful game last week against LSU, but it wasn't one of those Ty Simpson games that we've come accustomed to. He looked erratic. He looked off his timing, something that we haven't really seen since the FSU game. They just got lucky that their defense was able to keep him in check, and that LSU wasn't able to do much on offense. So we'll see which Ty Simpson do we get in this game. Do we get a Ty Simpson that's off his timing, where OU can kind of take advantage of that and be one of the better defenses in college football that we've said? Or is Ty Simpson going to continue to be surgical, as we've seen for so much of the majority of the season? And then John Mateer of it all. Like, congratulations. You were able to put it together against Tennessee. And I don't want to knock Tennessee, but it's no Alabama defense, that's for sure. So we'll kind of see which side we get from the quarterback. And I know it's a little bit of a cop-out answer saying these games are on the quarterback. But again, we've seen fluctuation in both of their play. And I think seeing which versions of these quarterbacks we get is going to be a big decider in what happens in this game. That being said, and I didn't say it in this game. In this game, I think I'm going to have Georgia win. I'm sorry, Matt. I think I'm going to have Georgia win, but I think Texas probably covers in this game. That being said, going back to the OU-Alabama game, I think Alabama wins this game, and I think Alabama covers this game. I think it was a little bit more of a blip in the radar when talking about Ty Simpson versus LSU. And I think he'll get back onto, being that surgical Ty Simpson that we were used to. And I think John Mateer probably makes a dumb throw here or there where he probably should put a little bit more air under it and instead throws a fastball, which forces a turnover or two, which he is very prone to do. So I think Alabama wins this game and probably covers the spread there. We'll shoot over to the ACC, or over to the group of five before we wrap it up with a little bit of the ACC conversation here. USF, there were three teams, maybe four now, but there were three teams going into the year that we said had a real chance coming out of the American. That was USF, Memphis, and Navy. Navy had lost to North Texas a couple weeks ago, which has kind of knocked them out when we already knew that they were going to lose to Notre Dame, which they did this past weekend. But can Navy kind of cannibalize the American? That's the big concern out of the American is Memphis, USF, North Texas, and Navy just going to beat up on each other to the point where there's no clear team, where each team has two losses in conference play, and we don't come out saying, well, there's one clear American team better. But I think USF has the offense, considering how well Byron Brown has been playing this year. And I just don't think Navy has the offense to keep up with them, considering that they play the single wing or the single T offense. And their kind of whole script is slow the game down. We're going to win by ball or time of possession and whatnot, compared to that very stark difference that we see in USF. And I just think USF's offense is just going to be way too much for Navy to handle in this game. And I think USF probably pretty handedly takes care of Navy. And that really brings a tear to my eye, considering I was pulling for the midshipmen for the majority of the year. And I still will be rooting for them in this game. I just think at this point in the season, again, USF is just probably the clearly better team here. And then moving it on to the ACC, there's no better spot to wrap it up than the ACC to end this episode. And there comes in that pesky Duke team, the unranked pesky Duke team, versus your ranked Virginia. Virginia had lost to Wake Forest this past weekend, which obviously knocked them down in the rankings. And as you see, Duke is favored given they're at home. That plays a factor into this. But can Darian Mensah outduel this Virginia offense? We have joked numerous times that Virginia has one of the better offenses, just considering their air raid and just chucking the ball, throwing the ball 45, 50 times a game. And there really hasn't been an offense or a defense that has been able to stop them besides Wake Forest. And ironically, that's, Wolfpack and NC State. So can Duke have the defense to slow them down enough that we can make this a quarterback duel with Darian Mensah? Because Darian Mensah is still one of the better quarterbacks in college football. But again, I don't think there was a better place to end this short episode than talking about the ACC and everything going on here. That's a little bit of the overarching narrative, at least for me in college football right now, is the impact that ACC has on college football as a whole and going forward. And everyone kind of thought it was going to be the Big 12 this year, but here we are going into week 12. It's the ACC. But again, I'm going to kind of close this out here. As I said numerous times, it was a quicker episode. There weren't really any people for me to bounce thoughts off of. We wish Matt a quick and speedy recovery. Again, he just has a cold, nothing too serious. So you guys should see him this time next week. He will be missing the live stream in terms of pro football tomorrow on Wednesday. But he will be back next week, and maybe he'll possibly be back for the Monday night or the Sunday night recap that we do each and every week. But again, I'd like to thank everyone who watched this video and was staying up with me as I was riding solo here. And thank you guys, and thank you guys for all the support that you guys have shown us over the last couple weeks, especially over there on the YouTube channel. It really means a lot to us, and we look forward to talking pro football. We go live Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30. Put out a recap video every Sunday, Monday morning, and then here we are going live. And again, thank you guys for all the support. Thank you to our sponsors, Regional Radio Sports, Spotify for Podcasters, and Uppercuts Grooming. And we will hopefully see you guys back tomorrow. But take care and have an excellent college football weekend. Hopefully YouTube TV is back by the time we see each other next week.